Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us remotely, we have Careen Winters. She's the Head of Reputation Management at MWWPR. We're going to look at the 5 rules for stakeholder communication with Careen, and it's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for making the time to join us. We're certainly in unprecedented times in the public relations world, in the markets, in reporting. And so give us, a high-level overview of what you're hearing. And we also want to meet the CORPSUMERS.
Yeah, so first, thank you for having me. And I agree with you. This is definitely an unprecedented environment that is putting companies in a very unique and important situation as communicators. Because what we're seeing is a convergence of concerns about, financial well-being, particularly as we're seeing companies go through layoffs. And with your job comes your healthcare coverage and the potential concerns about personal health. I think that this is a situation that we really haven't seen before. We've got 24/7 news coverage that is often conflicting or rapidly changing that creates kind of a whiplash effect. And I think what we're seeing is, as a result, people are increasingly turning to their employers as a primary source of trusted and credible information about kind of what's happening, what to expect next, and what they need to do. And so when we think about a company's stakeholders across the board, we're seeing some shifting in prioritization. Particularly with big public companies, that history has always said your shareholders were your most important constituency. But I think what we're seeing right now, because there's really no way to give guidance or know what to expect, a shift to where employees are your most important constituency, and thinking ahead to the rebound, what can companies do now in order to prepare themselves to win with consumers in the future? And so that really brings us to this idea of the CORPSUMER, which is a term that, was invented by MWW. And what we saw before the COVID crisis, there was a trend in consumers making decisions about companies and brands, both from a purchase perspective, but also from an employment and an investment perspective, based on corporate reputation, not just on product, price of product, attributes, sector, those kinds of things. And so before COVID, this was about 35% of Americans. And I think after COVID, pretty much every consumer will be a CORPSUMER. And every company will almost be a startup with the opportunity to reset or reinvent or reinterpret their brand. And so the things that we do now are what really will set us up for success in the days that come after COVID.
All right, let's move along to our next slide here. 5 rules for stakeholder communication. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, and so I would start by saying that the most important thing that any company can do is make employee communications your first priority. They are the people you need to take care of right now. They are looking to you for information. And if you think about the fact that we're relying on our employees to be our ambassadors for our companies with all of our other stakeholders, they're communicating your message to the outside world. So if employee communications has not been front and center in your organization, it really needs to be front and center now. And I recognize that is potentially particularly challenging in this environment where we're kind of being faced with an onslaught of information and people are glued to their news. And also information is changing so quickly, there can be concern about what to say and what not to say. So what I would say is, remember that the first time you communicate or the second time or the 20th time will not be your last. And that short communications in higher frequency are going to be more effective than a long war and peace type communication coming from your leadership. I think the next thing we're seeing a lot of companies do really well is looking for ways to be connected even while they are distanced. So the word social distancing is almost a misnomer because we are physically disconnected, but in many ways, I'm hearing anecdotally that people feel more connected to each other than ever before because they're using things like video chat and Zoom and Skype to get connected even from a distance. And so I think there are learnings there for companies as well to use those platforms to communicate with employees and also to think about delivering a message via video rather than sending an email. So that's kind of what our thoughts about upfront, impersonal, and being viewed. And then I think we get to the content of that communication, right? You're seeing companies make big, bold commitments like nobody will lose their job as a result of COVID. And so I think what's really important, because not every company can make that commitment, is that we lead with our values. We help our employees understand how we're making decisions and why we're making decisions and why now. And this way, if things change as the world evolves and things change at your company, you've established the reasons that you're making decisions and how, even if the decision has to change. Because I think it's super important that we're careful that we don't make promises we're not sure we can keep.
Well, Careen, I have to tell you, I've been really impressed with how the private sector has taken the lead with COVID-19 and the roles for CEOs, just how crucial it is to show that leadership. I would imagine it's got to be one of the most challenging times that many CEOs have faced in the course of their careers.
Truly unprecedented, right? They've never had to deal with it before. There was so much discussion this week about Jamie Dimon's letter, which is something people look for every year. And I think that what we need to remember is that our employees, our investors, our customers, consumers, they are people first, and we trust people before we trust companies. So trust and confidence in your company begins with trust and confidence in your CEO. And CORPSUMERS in particular put familiarity and trust in the CEO is among the top 3 things that they use to judge your company's reputation, along with how you treat your employees and whether you're generally a good citizen contributing positively to society. And so people often are struggling right now with how can we get our CEO out there when even to go on television, they're calling in and you can't really see them. And we talked about internal communications and the power of video, but I think for external audiences, this is really the time for CEOs to embrace the platforms of social media because they give you the opportunity to have what feels like a one-to-one conversation in a one-to-many environment. And so if your CEO is not on LinkedIn, is not on Twitter, is not using Facebook to communicate, this is the time to start. Because even though it's a new channel for you, people are looking for you and looking for information from you. And so there will be adoption of CEOs that get active in social. And I think that is our best bet for creating that substitute for physical presence that we have, and people have more time at home looking at screens. So if you're not on social and you're a C-level executive, I would encourage you to get there, but quickly.
All right, and to wrap up here, you believe CORPSUMERS will likely drive the rebound back when we come through the other side?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of discussion about the surge of demand as people want to go out to eat and they want to shop and they want to take vacations when this is all behind us. But they will be paying attention to which companies met their expectations and shared their values, particularly in how they have contributed to the people of their own organization and contributed to societal good. So when you see companies like, Estee Lauder, not a client, by the way, pivoting over from making cosmetics to making hand sanitizer, or companies doing, really good things and going out on a limb to keep as many people employed and protect their health coverage as they can, CORPSUMERS will remember those things and they will reward you, not just with their own purchases, but also with their advocacy and encouraging others to do the same.
All right, Careen, thanks so much. Fantastic insight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and thank you for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.